Hello, and welcome to this week's Jessica Recommends. I'm sure you can tell from the change of venue as well as the t-shirt, as well as my little friend that I have with me here today, what we're going to be talking about. I actually recorded another video last week, which weirdly enough, I can't find. It was like what I recommend for Christmas books, but also like gifts. If you're going to give a gift for this type of person, that type of person, this is a good mystery, this is a good sci-fi book. It's gone. It's just gone. It got eaten. I don't know. I actually found the audio file weirdly enough, so who knows? Maybe I'll start a radio play or podcast or something. But anyway, here I am with my little Santa, who, by the way, lives in my office most of the year and then comes out and comes upstairs just for December because I love him so much. I can't be parted from him. Actually, the first year I got him, he given to me by my sister, of course. He lived here in this room, which is our front room, has the piano in it over there. He actually lived on the couch in here for the entire year, along with he has a little elf buddy that is his assistant. And I left him out all year. People would come over or go to sit on the couch and be like, I'm sorry, why do you have a Santa Claus and an elf? And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Put him in a box? Rude. So, anyway, Santa and I are here to talk to you about Christmas because it is my favorite thing. And you can see we have our beautiful tree, and I have so many Christmas books. I have Christmas clothing. I've got earrings and sparkly barrettes even today in my 80s rocker hair. Yes, I am wearing Christmas pajama pants, and yes, I wear them in the daytime in December. It's what I do. So, let's talk about Christmas books, starting with, of course, what I'm reading, because pretty much from the end of November, like after Thanksgiving, to well after New Year's, I have a whole list of books that I read or reread. I have books that I have to read every year, and I'm always looking for new ones. So what I'm going to talk about today. So what I'm reading right now, though, is a new to me book. It's the fourth book in the Flavia de Luce mysteries by Alan Bradley. If you don't know about these books, they're wonderful. And I had not read this one yet, and then found out that it is a Christmas book. And I was like, well, obviously I need that immediately. It's called I Am Half Sick of Shadows. It's from The Lady of Shalott, that quote, and it's so far really fun. So they are historical fiction. She is an 11-year-old genius and kind of a evil genius who solves murders and is very interested in chemistry, specifically poisons. And just, she's really delightful. And this whole thing is set at their house at Christmas. And yes, by the way, I got my nails done for the first time since March of 2020. And I'm very excited about that. I got Christmas sparkly nails with little trees on my ring fingers, and I'm very excited about it. I had to stop going because of the COVID, and then I got out of the habit. And honestly, I have missed it. So I'm just going to be tossing things onto the couch you can't see, so deal with it. But that is what I'm reading right now. I'm listening to the audiobook of The 13th Child by Aaron Craig, which is a fantasy book, and I am loving it. The narrator is great, but the story is really fascinating. It is a girl, she's the 13th child. Her parents cannot afford to keep her. Classic story, we all know it. But they basically look for a god to be her actual godparent, and the god that accepts the girl is death. And so she is sort of raised by death. It's very good so far. So, and as a family, we just finished a book, which, oh gosh, I forgot to grab, but we loved it. It is Let It Glow by Joanne Levi and Marissa Meyer. And it's sort of a parent trap story where two girls discover that they are identical twins, but they were both adopted. Their parents didn't split them up, but they were adopted, and they don't know why they're adopted separately. And one of them has been raised Jewish and one of them has been raised Christian. And so they decide to swap to experience each other's holidays. It was so fun. We loved it. I just read that aloud to the kids, and we are about to start a book I will talk about in a minute that we always do every year. If you know me, you could probably guess what it is. But anyway, moving on to our books recommended. Robert Sabuda is a pop-up artist. I love pop-up books, but his are just beyond. And this is The Christmas Story. And I just got this one recently. I didn't know it existed. We have the Christmas alphabet. We have Twas the Night Before Christmas, but I'm absolutely loving this new one, which is stunning. The way the animal, this one killed me though. The way the little sheep pop up and the angels come out with all their wings is just the coolest thing ever. So if you are looking for a really cool like gift book or something for yourself if you collect Christmas books, this one is to die for. It's The Christmas Story by Robert Sabuda. And of course, our board books. Sandra Boynton, one of the best in the board book game. She updated her, well, not updated, but changed her Moo Ba La 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 to Moo Ba Fa La 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 last year, and it is just as delightful as the first, but also Christmas themed. And of course, your moment of Baby Lit, the Baby Lit books by Jen Adams and art by Allison Oliver. They have done The Nutcracker. So darling, so fun. It's all dance terms. So for little dancers in your life. And A Christmas Carol, one of the greatest books of all time. Little Master Dickens. And it is colors. So this is a pink skirt and a blue coat, and it's Mr. Fezziwig. Could you die? I love it. And of course, Leslie Patricelli, if you don't know, she has done a whole series of some of the best board books. This little baby that is just sort of genderless and gets up to all kinds of things. And she's done books of like yummy, yucky, like yummy things to eat, yucky things to eat. And yes, yes, no, no, where, yes, yes, use scissors to cut paper. No, no, don't use the scissors to cut your hair. But her one about the baby celebrating Christmas, fa la la, I guess the baby's kind of a toddler, but we put on the lights. Look at me. I'm a Christmas tree. Like they're so cute. And so this is the Christmas one. There's one for pretty much every holiday. There's a Halloween one and an Easter one. They're so darling. So those are really fun for if you know somebody with babies and toddlers. Now, this year we actually have Christmas and Hanukkah are like overlapping. So that is always cool and interesting. And I don't know about you guys, but I loved the All of a Kind family growing up. I read all the All of a Kind family books. They were so cool to me. They are sort of just pre or around World War I era in New York, a Jewish family living there. They have all these girls, and then towards the end of the series, they do have a little boy. But they were such fun books. They're like middle grade. Really great. And it was so interesting to see them, because I grew up in Idaho, in a Mormon house. Like I didn't know about these things. You'd see Hanukkah and Rosh Hashanah on the calendar. You didn't know what it meant. And so in those books, they would talk about the way they celebrate the holidays. But then there was just other stuff like getting grounded when you wanted to go to the party with your older sister or accidentally, ruining mom's good dress and trying to hide it by dyeing the whole dress and like just kind of things. If you liked Anne of Green Gables, you would really like their stories. But a couple of years ago, the books are by Sydney Taylor. But a couple of years ago, Emily Jenkins and Paul O. Zielinski did this Hanukkah picture book, which feels like exactly like it would be a story taken from one of the longer books and has just beautiful art and talks about the traditions of Hanukkah and how the family does it. And it really is just an absolutely gorgeous, like sort of I hate to call it fan fiction, but almost like fan fiction of the Sydney Taylor books, where you can just tell that they both really love those books and did such a good job with this. It's a really precious, beautiful book. If you know someone you want to get a gift for Hanukkah, or if you are interested in Hanukkah or your kids and want to explain what it is, that's a really great book for it. And the All of a Kind family books, of course. I am not going to talk this in depth about every single picture book that I have here because that would take way too long. I will try to keep it shorter. But also wanted to mention, speaking of overlapping, The Christmas Tapestry by Patricia Polacco. I love her art. It's so beautiful. And this is that story which was, it was a minister's sermon or something like that a few years ago. I believe it's actually fictional, but basically a family of a minister that moved to a new to take over a new church, and the church is very run down, and they find this beautiful like tapestry, handmade tapestry that they decide to use to cover the wall at the back of the church, and through that discover this Jewish man and this Jewish woman they get to know in their community. And it's just a really beautiful story, and the art is just stunning. So that is a really good one that kind of covers both those holidays that are happening right now. And my books are all usually a mix of the religious aspect of Christmas as well as the Santa Claus aspect, because I love Santa Claus so much, obvi, right? So I have sort of a mix of books where it's like, this is a fun story about Santa or a naughty little boy or something like that. And then this is a story about like the spiritual aspect of the holiday. So just brace yourselves. Christmas Magic by Lauren Thompson and pictures by John J. Muth, who you may know as like the Zen shorts and stuff like that. But this story about Santa feeling the Christmas magic in the air and getting ready for Christmas is just a delight. Not the least of which because he has a smaller reindeer, like a dog, that lives in his house with him and follows him around. That's just the cutest little sidekick for that story. Merry Christmas, Mr. Mouse by Kara and Mark Beener. So delightful. This mouse family learns about Christmas from the humans whose house they share. And they go out of their way to make Christmas for their many, many tiny children. And it is really precious. And I love things where they're like, we'll use a walnut shell for this. We'll use a crumb for our whole Christmas cake. I love things like that, like sort of like the borrowers and things like that are really fun to me. The Night Before Christmas, obviously, The Visit from St. Nicholas by Clement C. Moore is classic, very popular. Everyone knows it. I could probably recite it from memory. So what you want to do is you want to find yourself an artist who does the illustrations really beautifully, like to suit your taste. And I love Robert Ingpen. He's done a gorgeous illustration of The Wind in the Willows. And I think another book that I've got coming up, but Robert Ingpen's illustrations are really unusual. And I loved how he did this because if you read that poem, if you pay attention, Santa is a little elf. He is a right jolly little elf, and he's pulled by tiny reindeer. So these illustrations, the implication is Santa is quite small and very round. And I love him. And he's sooty. He's sooty and filthy from coming down the chimney, and his sleigh looks like a old, like musher's dog sled sleigh, and the reindeer do indeed appear to be very tiny. It's a really fun version of it that I really recommend. It's kind of harder to find, but it's only a few years old. But of course, our friend Olivia. I love the Olivia books by Ian Falconer. Ian Falconer, such an amazing talent. The Olivia helps with Christmas. My kids die over this one. It is so fun, so funny. Classic Olivia. She's trying to help get set up for Christmas. So of course she won't let Daddy light a fire because he'll burn up Santa. Of course she helps out by helping with the baby, which means she feeds the baby a bunch of leftover blueberry pie until he vomits up blueberry everywhere. She's helping. This is such a fun one. This is J.R.R. Tolkien's Letters from Father Christmas collection. This is a more recent one that's done up really nice. You can find all different ones, but this one I like because it not only has the reproductions of the actual letters, but then next to it, side by side, it's got it in nice text that you can actually read. But every year, his kids got a letter response from Santa Claus, from Father Christmas, in response to their letters. And he used different handwriting. He sometimes wrote from different characters, elves or polar bears. He created this whole world at the North Pole for his kids. There are the snow boys. There are this fighting faction of elves. There are polar bears. They're fully illustrated with beautiful pictures. And it's really so fun and so gorgeous. And this is a really pretty book, really big and thick to give as a gift. Red and Lulu by Matt Tavares. This is how Matt Tavares came on my radar. He's done a couple of books about Dasher, the reindeer, but this is my favorite of his. Red and Lulu is the story of the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center, the biggest Christmas tree in America. And this a beautiful cardinal who goes out to get something for his mate, comes back, and their tree they live in is gone. And it is so delightful, and the art is so gorgeous. The Santa Trap, for all you naughty kids out there, this one's for you. This very wealthy little boy, who is also the naughtiest little boy that ever was, as soon as he was born, he bit the nurse on the bottom. And so that's just how naughty he was. And every year, Santa gives him coal and socks, and he wants more. In fact, he wants it all. He sets all these elaborate traps for Santa and even trains some tigers to go after someone wearing red. And, you can tell how that's going to go. This is another gorgeous edition of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas that I just found because it's illustrated by PJ Lynch. And I am absolutely the world's biggest PJ Lynch fan. I love the style of his art. It is absolutely gorgeous. So if you're looking for a more traditional and extremely gorgeous version of Night Before Christmas to give out to someone as a gift or collect for yourself, PJ Lynch's illustrations are really pretty. The Robert Ingpen is a little unusual and very sort of Scandinavian looking. So if you like that, you like that one. The Juletomte and the Little Rabbits by Ulf Stark and Ava Eriksson is just a wonderful Advent story. It's basically one you can read each chapter. There's 25, and you read each chapter about how the little tomte get ready to help the little rabbits with their Christmas. And it's just precious. It's sort of between a picture book and like a early chapter book, but it's something you can read aloud at Christmas, read aloud one part chapter every night. A Child's Christmas in Wales by Dylan Thomas. If you don't know about this, these are his Christmas memories. And this edition is illustrated by Caldecott Award winner Chris Rashka. I don't normally like Chris Rashka's style, but I've liked some of the things he's done, like A Ball for Daisy. But for some reason, the sort of stream of consciousness style of Dylan Thomas's memories goes really well with these sort of weird, stark illustrations in this book. And I really love it. It's really pretty. This is probably one of my all-time favorite picture books right here, just hands down, Christmas or otherwise. The Day Santa Stopped Believing in Harold is by Maureen Fergus with pictures by Cale Atkinson. And Santa Claus decides that this little boy, Harold, is not real. He thinks that Harold's parents are putting out the cookies and milk for him. He thinks that everyone is lying to him about Harold because they think that that would take away the magic of Christmas from him if he knew Harold wasn't real. All the things that Santa says at the beginning and all the different things people say to him, like Mrs. Claus and stuff, are exactly what people say to kids about, is Santa real? It is hysterical. Meanwhile, Harold's having his own crisis of faith about Santa, and it's a delight. Berkeley Breathed, of Bloom County fame, did this. He did a couple of Christmas picture books. I love them all. This is my favorite. Red Ranger Came Calling, which is supposedly his story about being sent to live with an aunt on an island in the Pacific Northwest during the Depression and what happened to him that one Christmas when what he really wanted was a red bicycle, and meets a strange old man who lives out on their island, and magic ensues. I absolutely love that one. I think a lot of his books, picture books, are kind of long to be read alouds, but it's a really fun book for kids to read to themselves. And I love his style of art. Speaking of styles of art, Santa Calls by William Joyce. William Joyce, who created Roly Poly Oly and the Guardians of Childhood and stuff like that. This book about a young boy in Texas, also during the Depression. I don't know what it's up with the Depression, but his best friend and his little sister getting asked to help Santa Claus solve a crime is just delightful. Such an unusual story. Again, it's one that's kind of long to read aloud, but kids can read it to themselves, and is really fun at the end of it, when it ends, there are letters to help you understand what happened at the ending and stuff that you actually physically open up, which I love. Speaking of things I love, Last Stop on the Reindeer Express, written by Maudie Powell Tuck and illustrated by Carl James Mountford, is a really gorgeous book about a girl who's trying to get a letter sent to her grandpa who lives in Alaska. And it is a like a magic window type of book. I forget what this is called. But so you open the doors and then it passes through to the next picture. And then you open the door and it passes through to the next picture. Absolutely gorgeous art, cute story. Speaking of cute stories, we have Tiny Reindeer. Tiny Reindeer by Chris Naylor Ballesteros is absolutely hysteric. This reindeer is like 4 inches tall and really wants to help and really wants to be a part of Christmas. So Santa helps come up with a solution for what to do about tiny reindeer. And just it's so funny. It seems like it would be a Saturday Night Live skit. It's new to me, and so is the first one. Lane Smith, whom I adore, A Stickler Christmas. His character of Stickler, there was a book last year called Stickler Loves the World that I just found out about and had to get as well. This weird monster with way too many eyes, loves everything and is excited about everything and gives a gift to each one of his friends at Christmas. And Stickler loves sticks. So guess what each of his friends get? It's the most precious story in the whole world. And here's all the addressed and labeled sticks in the end papers. I just died over it. He's so precious. He must be protected at all costs with his weird, freaky, too many eyes. Well, you know I love the Moomins. Christmas Comes to Moomin Valley, adapted from one of Tove Jansson's longer books by Alex Hardy, Cecilia Davidson, and Philippa Vidlund. Um, darling story about those precious little Moomins discovering Christmas. They usually hibernate in the winter, and when they don't, they find out about Christmas. And they find out because everyone is saying, like, Christmas is coming, hurry, you're not ready. And everyone seems very worried and in a hurry. And they're like, Christmas is coming, and Christmas must be scary. Like, what do we do? They're like, you must have presents, you must have good food, you must welcome Christmas. Christmas is coming, and they make it seem like really ominous to the Moomins, who are terrified and are doing all the things they say you have to do in order to appease Christmas. And of course, it has an absolutely precious ending. Refuge by Anne Booth and Sam Usher is a gorgeous story about the birth of Christ and also fleeing into Egypt from the point of view of the donkey. It's beautifully told, almost like poetry, beautifully illustrated. And the proceeds from this book actually go to support the UN's refugee agency as well. So it's a charity book, basically. And on to something completely different, The 12 Bots of Christmas by Nathan Hale, who does The Hazardous Tales. I absolutely love this. He did this every day before Christmas once on his blog. I actually think he was doing it well before Christmas and basically sold it off of his blog. It's the 12 Days of Christmas, but with different robotic things. For instance, it's a cartridge in a gear tree. So fun. Every year when I would go into my kids' classrooms, this is the first year I'm not doing that. For so many years, I've gone into my kids' elementary school classrooms, and this is the first year I have a seventh grader and don't know kids in elementary school. But I would go in as part of the Christmas party and read a bunch of Christmas picture book favorites. And by my kids' request, I have always had to read The 12 Bots of Christmas since my oldest was in kindergarten. He had me start doing that. Always read that one. The kids love it. I get them to sing along. 5 batteries, so we sing the whole thing. I won't sing at you, and a cartridge in a gear tree. And the kids would all, after the first couple of repeats, would be able to sing along with me. And it was so fun. The Story of Holly and Ivy by Rumer Godden and Barbara Cooney. I do not know where I first read this story, but as I got this book a few years ago because I thought it was really pretty looking and started reading it out loud to my kids and realized that I knew this story about an orphaned little girl and her Christmas and her beautiful doll. And it's just a really sweet, very old-fashioned Christmas story. A new favorite, How Does Santa Go Down the Chimney? Had to do this one last year for my youngest class by Mac Barnett, illustrated by John Clausen, that absolute dream team. But all these ways, like they try to figure out how does Santa get down the chimney? Maybe the reindeer just stuff him down. And the expression on the reindeer's face is the one that's having a cup of cocoa, watching the others, Santa's bum sticking out. I don't normally like that kind of thing, but it is pretty hilarious. Like, and then does he have to clean his clothes before he goes to the next house? All this stuff is so funny. But this is probably my favorite page. Does he slide under the door like Flat Stanley or drip down your drain? I mean, it's so funny. I love the style of the art. I actually bought a box of Christmas cards this year that were based on one of the pictures from Red Cap Cards, by the way. I've just been sending them to people, like not as our official Christmas card, but just like to my son that's away from home and stuff like that. I used it for my sister's birthday card last week because I love the art so much. Speaking of art that I love, this is The First Christmas by Jan Pienkowski, and it's done in a traditional style. I believe he's from Poland. Good guess based on the name, but it's the King James version of The First Christmas, and it is done in a style. These are basically paper cutouts. The black is all paper cutouts. So it's just gorgeous and really kind of different. I absolutely love this. The angel appearing to Mary, and she's doing the laundry, and it's just so great. So this is a really beautiful one. I actually read this to my Sunday school class on Sunday, my class that I teach, because it is the story of the first Christmas combined from a couple of the Gospels, and you can just read it straight through with gorgeous illustrations. The Shortest Day by Susan Cooper, the Newbery Medal winner, author of the Dark is Rising books, illustrated by Carson Ellis. This is a poem that she wrote about the winter solstice, about how and why people celebrated it through the years, and like what they did, bringing light, making noise, and all the things to celebrate the coming back of the light. It's a really beautiful poem full of hope, gorgeous illustrations that they just did recently in this book. All right. Now, speaking of Susan Cooper, before I move on, though, The Dark is Rising, if you didn't know, this is just the second book in her series, The Dark is Rising sequence. The Dark is Rising is kind of an Advent book. It takes place over the 12 days of Christmas, essentially, and you can actually read it that way. You could read a chapter a day over Christmas. And was an online movement a few years ago that I took part in, and so did my oldest son. We really enjoyed it, called The Dark is Reading, where everyone sort of checked in, like on social media, like on Twitter and stuff like that, like, oh, today is chapter 12, very fun, and stuff like that. And so it was really fun to kind of do it as a community read. But it is actually a Christmas book, takes place at Christmas, and is a really fun read over Christmas for middle grade and young adult readers and adults. We're coming to the big one. I just put this smack in the middle. Well, we're on the tail end of the video. Don't worry, I won't keep you too long. This is possibly one of my favorite books of all time. A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And this is my favorite edition of it. This one is the full unabridged book, illustrated by P.J. Lynch. So it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look how beautiful this is. I do have a hankering to get the original. You can get a copy of the original with the original illustrations and the original binding, and that would be very fun, and I would like one for Christmas, yes. But nope, this one is for me the one that I reread to my kids every year. I think it's absolutely stunning. If you have not actually read A Christmas Carol, treat yourself this year. This book is gorgeous. The writing is so fun, so gorgeous. The story is so wonderful. It's my favorite book. And the best movie version of it is The Muppet Christmas Carol, except no substitutes. It is the most text accurate because Charles Dickens is actually narrating the book to you. It is not from Scrooge's point of view or anything like that. It is Charles Dickens telling you the story, telling you what's happening. And so having Gonzo as Charles Dickens explaining the story to you is accurate. Other than there being two Marley brothers, it's completely 100% accurate. It's the best version of it, except no substitutes. Best Christmas movie. And then treat yourself to The Man Who Invented Christmas by Dan Stevens, which talks about a fictionalized version of the writing of A Christmas Carol. I mean, it's slightly fictionalized, but it is really a really gorgeous, like historical movie, Man Who Invented Christmas with Dan Stevens from Downton Abbey. So good. Now, we read this every year as a family. I am excited to go try the new movie because it's getting good reviews. And there is a new movie version. But The Best Christmas Pageant Ever by Barbara Robinson, an absolute classic, super short. We can usually read it in 2 nights as a family, about the terrible herdman kids who decide to go to church because they heard that the minister gives you lots of treats, and they're awful, they're bullies, they all smoke, even the girls, all this stuff, and they get super into the Christmas play and they take over all the main characters, and just chaos ensues, things burn down, and it's gorgeous. I can't read the ending. I have to pass it to one of my children for like the last couple of pages because it is so moving, in addition to being funny. The Family Under the Bridge by Natalie Savage Carlson is a Newbery Honor book from way back in the day about basically a funny little homeless man in Paris during Christmas who discovers this family with 3 little children and a hardworking mom who have lost their home at Christmas. And he doesn't like to be bothered. He doesn't like to be involved with anyone. He keeps his nose clean. And then how this family changes him and what he decides to do about it is a really gorgeous Christmas story. A Boy Called Christmas by Matt Haig. I was actually lucky enough some years ago to get a bound manuscript of this book to read, and it was so fabulous. I was very excited to get a really version a couple years later and be able to read it to my kids. There's a movie on Netflix. It's fine. It's cute. It's fine. But the book is really excellent, and he's gone on and done a whole series about it. The Girl Who Saved Christmas, which is set in the Victorian era and is about a girl chimney sweep, my kids actually liked better than the original one. And then she encounters Santa Claus. Now he's grown up and stuff like that. They're illustrated. It's delightful. And there's a new one. There's one called A Mouse Called Mika, and we have not read that one yet. So I'm sure it's delightful too. But Winterfrost by Michelle Hautz is a story about what happens if you do not appease your little tante in the barn. This girl, there's some hullabaloo in the family. Her parents have to go into town over Christmas, and she is in charge of putting out the Christmas porridge in their barn for their little barn elf, and forgets to do it. And he steals her baby sister. Never forget the barn elf's porridge. Owen Colfer's Artemis Fowl fame, his Juniper's Christmas came out last year. Absolutely delightful. Almost like a modern Christmas take, really interesting take on Christmas magic, really interesting take on Santa Claus. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Very Artemis Fowl-y, like there's gadgets and things like that, and nefarious gangsters and stuff that really reminded me of one of his kids' adventure books, but also very Christmassy, and I really loved it. Now for you young adults in the room. This is sort of in between. It's out of print now, and I don't know why. Sometimes you can find the picture book that's called Holly Claus Christmas Princess. It's by Brittany Ryan. There's illustrations by Laurel Long. I love this book. It's a big, thick, chunky book about Santa Claus's daughter growing up, leaves home, and spends the weeks before one Christmas living in New York City, sort of golden age New York City, working in a toy shop. It's delightful. It's scary. There's a ton of fantastical elements, centaurs and magical reindeer and elves with 4 arms and like all this weird stuff. And this very, very creepy demon guy that is after her. It's very unusual. It's sort of a high fantasy book for Christmas, and I really love it. Let It Snow, which is three novellas that interlock by John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Lauren Miracle. Every year when I reread this, and I reread it pretty much every year, a new one is my favorite that year. It sort of rotates around. First, it's the John Green one. Oh, no, it's Maureen Johnson's. No, it's Lauren's this year. So delightful about their sort of like teen romances all happening at Christmas, and they all interlock, especially at the end, and it's really fun. Speaking of teen romances, My True Love Dave to Me, 12 holiday stories, which are edited by Stephanie Perkins. Everybody's in this: Holly Black, Laini Taylor. So some of the stories are fantasy, some are sort of like mysteries. There's lots of just straight up like rom-com type of situations. Kelly Link, Myra McIntyre, David Levithan, Kirsten White. Everybody's got a story in this. And same thing, every year there's a different story that I absolutely start bawling over because it's so sweet, or like, oh, that's so magical, or something like that. And I swear it's a different one every year. Um, there's one I actually don't read because I think it's dumb, but I won't tell you which one it is because I'm sure you'll think something different. But anyway, there's actually one I don't reread. It's dumb. But the rest are gold. Talk Santa to Me by Linda Urban, who wrote A Crooked Kind of Perfect. This is a teen book about a girl. It's very sort of Hallmark movie channel. This girl and her family run a Christmas, like all year round emporium and a Santa school for training Santas. And like, you know, the teenage boy that is sort of like her exact opposite, and Christmas romance ensues. And it's also really cute because her aunt, who is taking over the business, wants to try different employee costumes for the Christmas Emporium on her. So in pretty much every time she runs into this guy, she's wearing a different weird outfit, like little stripy lederhosen, dressed like a weird elf or something like that every time. So funny. Okay. The Christmas Hirelings by Mary Elizabeth Bratton is a Victorian book, really thin, an absolute delight, where an old curmudgeon, his friend suggests that to make Christmas more merry around his house, they hire some children to come and play, and they can treat them to little presents and have a little party for them and stuff like that. And they hire these three children who are so cute, especially Moppet. She's only 4 years old and she's completely round, apparently, and always wears red. Little Moppet just like, melts the old curmudgeonly man's heart and all that good stuff. But there's a twist to it at the end. And my favorite thing, though, is actually on Audible. The audiobook is read by Richard Armitage, Thorin Oakenshield from the Hobbit movies. He does such an amazing job. I love how he reads it. So I always listen to him read it. It's very short. It's like a 4 hour audiobook. But The Christmas Hirelings, new Christmas favorite that I found about 3 years ago. I grew up on Marion Chesney's romances, and then she turned into MC Beaton and became a mystery writer. And these are two of my favorites from her Hamish Macbeth mysteries. She has A Highland Christmas, which is just a story about Hamish Macbeth's Christmas antics. No one is actually murdered in this one, unlike all of her other books about him, which are all called Death of a Somebody. But it's just a story about their quirky little village at Christmas, and really fun. You don't have to have read any of the others to enjoy this, actually. And Miss Davenport's Christmas, which is a Regency romance about, two very strictly raised girls who end up having to go stay with some people they don't know at their house over Christmas to get away from like an outbreak of measles or something like that. And of course, romance ensues. It's very Jane Austen-y, very Jane Austen light, very fun. I reread both of those every year. Also, they're short, so why not? This is new to me this year, The Christmas Wish by Lindsay Kelk, which is sort of like Groundhog Day, but taking place over Christmas and in England, and really fun. Really enjoyed it. I don't often get as into the Christmas rom-coms. This one was not very naughty, so it had that going for it, not very spicy, and just a really fun premise. And her reactions to the different days of waking up and it's Christmas Day again, like, she goes through like all the stages of grief practically and stuff after a while. It's super fun. And of course, the grand finale, A Lot Like Christmas by Connie Willis. This is a collection of all her Christmas stories, has an intro and an afterword by her about how much she loves Christmas, other Christmas books and movies she recommends. I've discovered the most wonderful things because of her recommendations in here, but it is just a whole slew of Christmas stories. Most of them are very science fiction-y, but they have all different bents. Some are mostly a romance, some are super serious. One is a murder mystery in the style of Lord Peter Wimsey. You know, all these different things. Really fun. If you don't know Connie Willis, pick this up and try one of her Christmas stories. She loves Christmas as much as I do, and she has the stories to prove it. So, that is your Christmas recommendations for you, for your family, for gifts, for everyone. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the new year.